Okay, everyone, looks like we're about ready to go live. It is great to be here tonight. This is Brooks Agnew. And we're here live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains on Revolution Radio on the freedomslips.com website. Glad you could be here with us. I think we're waiting for the intro to get out of the way. Can never tell with the studio. It's hard to tell, but welcome everyone. We are live. It is Wednesday, 1/22/20, and glad you're here with us. This is where the past meets the future, and here the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. Tonight is a 2-hour program, so it's pretty fast-paced. No call-ins yet. We'll get that set up in a month or so. And you can start filling up the chat room. Good to have you, Festus, Terry. Nice to have you. Keep those comments coming. Good to have you here. I can hear a little bit of interference in the background, but we'll just keep pushing forward. In the wake of the Virginia gun rights rally a couple days ago, Democrats in the Capitol are not slowing down their push for tyranny. You remember 50,000 plus patriots in Virginia took to the streets to show the governor of Virginia who's who and what's what. Not a single arrest. They picked up their own trash. No cars were burned. No fights. No gunshots. Everything was perfect. Law enforcement was happy, and they were out in force. State troopers and sheriffs were called from counties all around to Richmond. But everyone was happy. Everyone was good. Antifa never showed up. Protesters never showed up. Everything was peaceful. But even though there were 50,000 plus patriots there, even though they came armed, showing with helmets, with goggles, with gloves, with uniforms, with semi-automatic weapons, pistols, everything showing, Democrats are moving a bill through the legislature that would effectively criminalize dissent against Governor Blackface Northam and other state officials. Yes, it's true. In Virginia, House Bill 1627 was introduced by Delegate Jeffrey M. Bourne last week. The legislation, and I'm going to quote here, provides that certain crimes relating to threats and harassment may be prosecuted in the city of Richmond if the victim is the governor-elect. Lieutenant Governor-elect, Attorney General or Attorney General-elect, a member or employee of the General Assembly, a justice of the Supreme Court of Virginia, or a judge of the Court of Appeals of Virginia, close quote. Language in the bill explicitly criminalizes free speech. You know, free speech was established, of course, so we could say whatever we wanted to each other. But specifically in the Constitution, specifically so that dissent could be voiced by the people without retribution. That's what it's there for. So watch for this bill to be tested quickly in the Supreme Court. I go on to quote, if any person with the intent. Now, that's a difficult thing to legislate now, isn't it? Well, he punched me in the nose, but he didn't really intend to hurt me, so I guess it was okay. Intent to coerce, intimidate, or harass any person shall... What about persuasion? Huh? What about the intent to persuade any person? See, This is very difficult to legislate. Shall use a computer or computer network to communicate obscene, vulgar, profane, lewd, lascivious, or indecent language, or make any suggestion or proposal of an obscene nature, or threaten any illegal or immoral act. He is guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor, the legislation reads. Really? So, sticking that where the sun don't shine, that's probably immoral, isn't it? Yeah, that would definitely be a Class 1 misdemeanor. The legislation makes it clear that the above provision applies directly to the governor-elect, blah, blah, blah. Which means this legislation effectively criminalizes dissent against public officials, which is exactly a violation of the Constitution. Look for this to be tested right away. I think I'll test it tonight. What do you say? Tina Freitas, wife of Republican delegate Nick Freitas, called attention to this intolerable act yesterday. She said, "Wow, on cue. Now they are after the First Amendment. Dems are trying to set up special rules exclusive to the elite ruling class to protect themselves from criticism." It's not unusual. Presidents have done this before. Yeah, Roosevelt had legislation. Wilson had legislation. If you criticized the president during times of war, you were just put in the slammer. That was it. And they didn't have Twitter in those days. You had to kind of put it in print, or you had to be on the radio, or you had to be a member of the press. Yeah, any member of the press that criticized the president in those days, they were just put in jail. Virginia Democrats were not detracted by the gun rights rally on Monday in the slightest. I told you they wouldn't be. Yes, there were a lot of patriots out there that said, but if we don't go, King Northam wins. Yeah, he wins anyway. However, let me put this in here. A lot of the country, they don't feel sorry for you, Virginia. They just don't. All the sanctuary counties and all this crap, that's just a lot of peacocking. Because you voted him in. You voted the governor in. You voted a majority in the House and the Senate. You deserve exactly what you got. All this, putting up and getting on the bus and taking off work and whatever to come out Martin Luther King Jr. Day and show up. Great. Wonderful. Where were you election day? Where were you on election day 2018? Nowhere. However, I have since learned that an outside professional, probably an expert in this kind of thing, came in from outside the state, and they gerrymandered the districts in Virginia, probably on the coattails of Terry McAuliffe. You remember him, don't you? The corrupt politician that stole $5 million from Mississippi. Yeah, stole $5 million from Mississippi from a EB-5 grant program, went to Virginia, bought the governor's seat, and served there. Well, one of the things that they did is they studied on how to redistrict Virginia. And when they did, it didn't change anything. Everybody still showed up at the polls just like normal, except the elections didn't count because the Democrats were all reportioned by district so that no matter what the Republicans did, they lost. So when I say that, look, Virginia, quit your crying. You got what you deserved. You voted him in. Now you made your bed. Now lie in it. That may not exactly be true. Maybe there is some skullduggery in the background. But that being said, what's done is done. And the governor, who wasn't even in town when you had your little rally show, didn't do any good, did it? Didn't do any good. Virginia Democrats not detracted at all, not in the slightest. They moved red flag laws through the legislation the next day and subsequently killed pro-gun bills that were introduced by Republicans. The governor and the leadership of the Democrats have declared war on law-abiding citizens and gun owners, and their votes today just confirmed that's where we're going. Virginia patriots may have to continue organizing locally, with sheriffs deputizing local patriots and constitutional militias being trained as a bulwark against the treasonous usurpers leading the state legislature. Piece by piece, Earth explorers, piece by piece, they are taking it apart. Virginia, which I called the Operation Flashpoint, that was my terminology for it, because, you know, make no mistake, there were probably efforts that didn't make it on the news. Of course, the news themselves, CNN and others on the streets going, you know, gunfire could break out at any moment. Why, there are people here with guns. This could be really bad. Of course, it happened. Everything was cool. But they reported it as though it did. And, you know, they had the dun dun dun, you know, music. Come, we're back from commercial. Yes, look at these people. They're marching on the streets. Look at that. That's a "Don't Tread on Me" flag. That's a Confederate flag. Oops. No, it's not actually. And there were reports, let's see, by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that there were guys running around waving rebel flags. Not so. There were no rebel flags. There were no Confederate flags anywhere on display. Lots and lots of video, tons of video, not a single Confederate flag. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez lied. Simple as that. All right, let's get to the hot show here. Impeachment Show Season 5. Season 4, you know, we saw the season opener. We went through all the backroom deals, all the tense moments, you know, where the Republicans stormed the secret proceedings down in the basement. We listened to constitutional experts. We saw guys playing colonel. We saw ambassadors who really actually bought the seat. They paid for it. They got in and they made good money doing it. And they also worked to protect Burisma and other companies like that from being prosecuted by Ukrainian government. Just exactly what they were supposed to do. I mean, that's their job as ambassadors for the major corporations and for the money laundering operation. Because, you know, Ukraine was the best kept secret in politics for a long, long time. Long time. I mean, they tried to, you know, point the spotlight toward Russia, and they took the little reset button. You remember the little reset button up there, and Russia's the bad guy, and Putin's a spy, and on and on and on. But it was Ukraine, because the Bidens, and there are a lot of them now, we know from Profiles in Corruption, from Peter Schweitzer's book that's just come out, that there were 5 Bidens involved in the Biden enrichment program. And basically it runs like this, just to make it simple, to try to fit it into your consciousness. So as you watch Impeachment Show Season 5, this is the season spoiler, okay? This is the spoiler alert. The way this is set up is government officials, namely the vice president, that would have been China Joe Biden, the vice president authorizes or causes to be authorized loans or grants to be made to Ukraine to help build up their natural resources. Because, as you know, as the Soviet Union broke down, the states that used to make up the Soviet Union, they had Latvia, and you had Lithuania, and you had Kazakhstan, and you had Crimea, and you had Ukraine, and you had others. Well, now they're all independent states. So now they want to develop their raw materials, their gas, their coal, their steel, you know, all that stuff. They want to develop that and become independent nations, and they're all doing that. Ukraine, having been, you know, part of the Soviet Union since, 1745, part of Russia, they weren't so lucky because they had several factions living in the country. One is a group of oligarchs. Oligarchs are rich industrialists that make their money off of war. They sell weapons to both sides. They sell tanks, they sell jeeps, they sell bullets and guns and armor and all that stuff, the oligarchs. Plus, they run all the black market stuff because, as war breaks out, certain things become scarce, diapers, milk, those kinds of things. The oligarchs control the black market. That's how they make their money. So they became rich, and there were quite a few of them living in the hills. They got compounds, they have factories, they have money. Their family lines go back hundreds of years in the regions, and they're very strong, and they're very smart, and they're very powerful. And then the other faction that you have is the general populace, which are generally communists. They're communists because that's what they grew up with. That's what they know. That's the system of government. They pay most of their money to the government. The government owns all the real property, and then that is kind of meted out according to your needs. And then the third is more of a revolutionary faction. It's made up of Al-Qaeda. It's made up of Nazis that we put in. Yes, they have little like SS on their shoulder. It looks very similar to Antifa, kind of the same kind of marking, but it's us. We're the ones, the CIA and all that backs us. So you have these three factions, and they're all fighting each other all the time. It only makes the news when Russia gets involved because Russia is trying to assert the same kind of leadership over Ukraine that it has since 1745. And you recall that when Yanukovych was president, back in the John McCain days, the banks of Europe had stepped in, and what they were going to do is make Ukraine some big loans. Like, we're going to loan you money, things are going to be great. And of course, Yanukovych was saying, well, listen, with the loans and everything, are we going to have, open borders with Europe? Are we going to be able to trade? We're going to be able to go back and forth without a passport? No. You still have to have a passport, all that stuff. But we will give you the money. Okay, well, it wasn't the best deal in the world, but it was the only deal in the world. And so Yanukovych was about to sign. He had the pen in his hands. And then the phone rang. And on the other end of the phone was Vladimir Putin. And he said, listen, President Yanukovych, don't sign that document, because if you do, it's going to be an economic hit. What's going to happen is you're not going to be able to make your payments. And when you're not able to make your payments, and they'll make it to where you can't make your payments, then they're going to move in and repossess Ukraine. And the problem is, I don't want NATO's missiles in Ukraine aimed at Russia. That's not where I'm going. So here's what we'll do. I will loan you the money. Me, President Putin, will loan you the money, and I will give Ukraine cheap and plentiful natural gas so that you guys can stay warm in the winter. Well, Yanukovych was Crimean. Crimean is Russian. They speak Russian. They are Russian. They're Russian people. He liked that deal better. And so he signed the Putin deal. Well, I gotta tell you, that's a big buzzkill, because you see, the Biden school of self-enrichment, it had already been set up. Okay, all these shell corporations and nonprofits, layers and layers of them, were already set up. All this investment in infrastructure and ambassadors and all this stuff is already in place. The U.S. was sending the money to go into this private development, and then it was being filtered down through the nonprofits and the shell corporations like a Japanese pachinko machine, and out the bottom, nice and clean, where nobody could spot it, was cash, lots of cash. And that cash filtered right back to Biden and his cronies. It wasn't a small amount of money. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands. We're talking about hundreds of millions, in the billions. And every year, it was better and better. In fact, it was so good, China Joe couldn't find enough people to spend it all. He couldn't find enough people that he trusted to scoop it all into accounts here in the United States. So he used his family. He used his brother and his sons. Five Bidens were all on the take. Hillary Clinton was on it. John Kerry, John McCain. Dozens of people were raking in the cash from what Joe Biden had set up. And it took a long time to set it up. It took a lot of corruption, took a lot of trust, took a lot of threats, took a lot of oaths and covenants and secret deals and a lot of grease. And when Yanukovych signed the deal with Putin, well, that just kind of shot the whole thing to hell. So instantly what happened is John McCain sprang into action, worked with the CIA, and they began bussing in a riot into Kiev. And they started a riot. Well, the riot went on for 3-4 weeks, and sorry to say, but the national press wasn't paying any attention. Enter Victoria Nuland. You've heard the name, right? Victoria Nuland? Well, I think you're going to hear a little bit more. Victoria Nuland went to Ukraine, and this is what she said. Look, here's the deal. Nobody's going to pay any attention to this until like 100 people are killed. You get 100 people slaughtered, then the international press can start picking it up. Then it turns into a massacre. Then it turns into something that we can really get our teeth into. And so what happened is the CIA, under the direction of John McCain, moved operatives into the area, infiltrated the actual protesters themselves, looking like a protester, looking like a local. And you can look at the video film yourself. If I could show it to you tonight, I would do it. But here's the deal. These operatives went in and they placed snipers on the roofs of the buildings. And then they went in to the protesters and they gathered them up. They said, look, get some metal, get some shields and that, and we'll group together, okay? And you follow me. And we'll take up a position up there in between those buildings, and we'll hold that position. And what they did is they led 100 people up there, 100 people. The operative moves out of the way, and the rooftop snipers shot them all right there in the streets. Average, ordinary line workers and factory workers and sanitation workers who thought they were protesting an evil government that was burning their town to the ground. And that wasn't it at all. The snipers were sitting on the roof and they shot them all. You could see it. It's on film. It's a massacre. It got to 100 very quickly. And that's when McCain was able to push Yanukovych out, and Yanukovych left in exile. They broke open the prison. They got out the corrupt politician, the old leadership that was in prison for corruption, broke them out and put them back into power. Why? Because that was the game. That was the Joe Biden school of self-enrichment. This was the package. And then the money started flowing. Billions and billions of dollars started flowing. And you've already heard what happened. When the Attorney General, the equivalent of the Attorney General in Ukraine, started to investigate Burisma because they were just getting crazy with it. I mean, they were laundering so much money. It was like, natural gas is one thing, but they were laundering cash, lots of cash. And they weren't even hiding it anymore. They were so confident they wouldn't get caught. They were trucking it around in wheelbarrows in the sidewalk. That's how open it was. Nobody was protecting anything. And so what happened was Joe Biden and his son fly over there. And the first thing that happens is Joe Biden meets with them and says, you're going to end this investigation. And the attorney general said, no, we're not. We have the goods. We're going to put some people in prison, and we're going to go wherever this leads. Well, as it turns out, Joe Biden didn't go empty-handed. He had a checkbook with him, a checkbook with $1 billion in it. He was going to give $1 billion to Ukraine. No strings attached. You can do with it whatever you want to do with it. One thing, the old president, the corrupt president, the one that was the descendant of the one that they broke out of prison, you're going to fire that attorney general, and you're going to stop this investigation, because I'm getting on a plane in 6 hours, and I'm taking the $1 billion with me. Well, he tried to call Biden's move as a bluff. He said, you don't have the authority to do that. You're just the vice president. And Joe said, oh, don't I? Here, you can use my phone. Go ahead, call Barack and see if he's not supportive of this. Of course he was, because he was on the take as well. Big, big money. And that's why they were so confident. That's why he could brag about it on national television. That's why tens, hundreds of millions of people have now seen this clip. If you haven't seen it, you need to go to YouTube and put it and watch it. It will blow your mind. Nobody's pulling Joe's leg. Nobody's forcing him to say anything. He's saying it because he's a braggart, just like all thugs are braggarts. They brag that they have that kind of power. And he did it. They fired the attorney general. Joe's son got away with it. He pocketed the money, got a job for between $50,000 and $83,000 a month. It was millions and millions of dollars. What does he know about natural gas? Yeah, about that much about natural gas. Oh, and let's not forget about Joe's brother. Joe's brother knows nothing about driving a 16-penny nail. Doesn't even know what end of the hammer to hold on to. But he got a job, he got a contract to build 100,000 homes in Iraq post-war. 100,000 homes. That would make him like the biggest home builder of all time in the United States if he got a contract like that. And let's just say he only made $1,000 per home profit. That's $100 million in pure profit. Oh, maybe they were cheap houses. But you know what? It's not that hard to get a 2x4 for your house at Lowe's. But try getting a 2x4 from Lowe's to Baghdad. That's a big deal. You're talking trains and ships and trucks and people. And guess what? Yeah. Biden Incorporated made money all along the way. Every single Teamster, every single airplane, every single nail, every single strip of insulation, everything they made money on. It wasn't $100 million. It was more like $1 billion they made off that. And what does Joe's brother know about construction? Nothing. He don't know nothing. Doesn't even know what a caulking gun is. Doesn't that make you sick? Well, that's what's really at stake here with Impeachment Show Season 5. And Adam Schiff is in on it. He's making money on it. In fact, you know, one of the things that makes an attorney so dangerous in a courtroom isn't really the facts. It isn't really right or wrong. It isn't his suit. It isn't the cut of his hair, the color of his tie, or even his class ring. That has little to do with it. What really has a lot to do with it in a courtroom is how well do you tell a story? Can you really get behind your story? And Adam Schiff is insane. He's so insane. You remember Christine Blasey Ford? I'm just going to throw this in here. Yes, Christine Blasey Ford was her thesis in order to get her doctorate was on self-hypnosis as a method to be able to beat a lie detector test under duress. In other words, you not only convince yourself of your story on a conscious level, but you're able to convince yourself of your story on a subconscious level. You believe it so much that even when the drugs are administered, even when they smash your finger with a hammer, even when they pull your toenails out with a pair of channel locks, you believe it because it's in your core. I would have asked Christine Blasey Ford 3 questions. You want to know what my questions are? It wouldn't have been anything about what happened when she was in high school. None of that. 3 simple questions. Ms. Ford, are you aware that there are 17 GoFundMe accounts in your name? I mean, it's a simple yes or no question. Just a yes or no will do. Are you or are you not aware that there are 17 GoFundMe accounts in your name? Because, I mean, I have the records. That's why I asked the question, because I already know the answer. My next question is, are you aware that while this has been going on, while we've been sitting here these 6 days, are you aware that your 17 GoFundMe accounts have accumulated over $1 million in cash in the last 6 days? Yeah. I mean, you would have been getting emails on this all along because it's your email address that set up all these GoFundMe accounts. Yes or no will do. You either are aware or you're not aware. You're either checking your email or you're not. I mean, you're checking it on your phone. You would know, right? Because I have the records. It's over $1 million now, and it's growing. And my third question is, because one of the things you'd get is a list of the donors too. Is there anybody in this room today, in this hearing today, that's on the donor list of any of your 17 GoFundMe accounts? That's all the questions I have, Chairman. That's what I would have asked. And that would have ended that. In Mr. Schiff's opening statement today in Impeachment Show Season 5, he charged that the results of elections cannot be trusted, and Americans are too stupid to make such decisions. Yeah, he actually said it. He actually said it. Schiff said the Senate needs to stop an attempt to use the powers of the presidency to cheat in an election for precisely this reason. The president's misconduct cannot be decided at the ballot box. The president's misconduct, we cannot be assured that the vote will be fairly won. The president reacted to the Senate trial from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Here's what he said. These are major sleazebags. It's a total hoax. It's a disgrace. Sorry, Mr. President, you can't use those words on the House Senate floor. These august surroundings, we don't use such words. The House impeachment managers contend Trump used the power of his office to pressure Ukraine to help him win the 2020 election, then tried to cover up his scheme by obstructing Congress's investigation. The White House argues Trump had a public interest in asking Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky to look into an apparent conflict of interest in Hunter Biden's profiting from a corrupt Ukrainian firm while his father was Obama's point man for Ukraine policy. Well, first of all, I guess my logic, my full metal logic here is, even if that was true, why does that have anything to do with the 2020 election? Because Joe Biden was never the nominee. He ain't the nominee now. He wasn't the nominee then. He's not going to be the nominee for president. So how in the world Could President Trump investigating corruption in Ukraine have anything to do with the 2020 election? It didn't. It only had something to do with the 2016 election, which is an election they attempted to steal. So, Rush Limbaugh said today, and yet the Democrat Party persists in lying to the American people. I told you that these people ought to be held accountable. They have done more to corrupt the honor and integrity of American elections than anything the Russians could have done had they succeeded. And somebody asked me the other day if the Russians influenced me to vote for Donald Trump, and I said, no, absolutely not. The only influence I had to vote for Donald Trump was Hillary Clinton. That's all I needed. The Democrats' actions, he said, have made sure everyone doubts every election result. They lose. When they lose, the Russians did it. Trump did it. What have you. They've already accused Trump of tampering with the 2020 election. So, I've got enough time. I'm going to go through these 9 most important new arguments in this memo that Jay Sekulow submitted. And I think you're going to see the logic in this. I'm just going to read the headlines of it because I don't want to spend the whole hour on this. It was entirely appropriate for President Trump to ask Ukraine about the Bidens and Burisma. That's absolutely true. It was. At that time, and at this time, this very minute, Biden is not the nominee. Biden isn't even the front runner for the nominee. So it's totally appropriate to look into the corruption. Number 2, President Trump had a broad interest in stopping corruption in Ukraine, not confined to the Bidens. Absolutely true. He talked about it in the 90s. He talked about it in the mid-2000s. He talked about it in the mid-2010s. He said the corruption in this area needs to be investigated. Everybody knows of the cash being laundered through this area, and it's all illegal. All of it is illegal. Yovanovitch, not Yanukovych, but Yovanovitch, you know, the ambassador lady, she was protecting Burisma and several other companies. She took a list to the new president, Zelensky, as ambassador, and she said, these are the companies you will not investigate. Well, the president said, first of all, you're just the ambassador here, and I think you're kind of beholden to the old corrupt president. I'm a new president, and I'm going after the corruption regardless of what you say. But that was an attempt to meddle with the 2020 election right there. So Yovanovitch should be prosecuted for treason. Number 4, White House has withheld aid to other countries in the same way and without controversy, and rightly so. One of my friends, his name is Russell, asked me the other day, what do you think about international aid, especially to Israel? And I said, well, I will tell you right now, no international aid should be given without quid pro quo. None. If we're going to give aid to a foreign country, I don't care if it's Greece, I don't care if it's Somalia, Venezuela, I don't care. You're going to give us something in exchange for the money. We're not giving you the money and then sitting back and saying, well, you know, we'll see what they do with it and hopefully it's good. No. We say, you're going to get this money, and here's the things you're going to do with it. And here are the things you're going to do for us. Us, we, the American people. And if you don't, we're going to cut off the money. Just like he did with the Palestinians. Just like he did with Hamas. We don't send money to them anymore. They're cut off because they weren't doing anything that we asked them to do. All foreign aid should be given with a quid pro quo. Period. Absolutely. 5, the House impeachment inquiry resolution failed to authorize hearings that had already happened. It's true. It's true. The resolution of October 31st directed House committees to continue their ongoing investigations into the president. However, the White House notes the resolution did not purport to retroactively authorize investigative efforts before October 31st. And they were investigating all the way back all the way back to when the election happened in November of 2016. In fact, it could be said that spies were put into Trump's campaign in February of 2016. Hello? He wasn't even the nominee until May 26th, 2016. They had spies working inside his campaign, and this hasn't come out yet. But I can guarantee you that there were spies in the Cruz campaign as well, because Cruz had a pathway to 270. You remember that? You remember Indiana? You remember Ohio? You remember Cruz coming out and telling people he had a pathway to 270, and he did. So mark my words, there were spies in the Cruz campaign as well as the Trump campaign. Number 6, the articles of impeachment are invalid because they use a laundry list rather than a clear case. Well, I think that they are generally invalid because A, abuse of power is not a crime, and number 2, obstruction of Congress is the president's job. It's actually part of his job description to obstruct Congress. That's called separation of powers. It's called executive privilege. It's called, this is the executive branch, and this is the legislative branch. And they kind of obstruct one another, right? That's the check and the balance. If they ever get really cooperative with one another, we really have a problem. We really have a problem, like a Roosevelt problem, big time. 7, the subpoenas to administration offices were invalid because they denied counsel to the executive. And that's true. Everybody that answered these subpoenas, they were not allowed to take attorneys with them. The executive was not allowed to have an attorney present with them. And that is not the way our legal system works. So, number 8, the president's due process rights apply in impeachment, not just at trial. Number 9, Adam Schiff is an interested fact witness who lied about contact with the whistleblower. That's true. Adam Schiff is an actual fact witness in the evidence making up the charges against the president. And because he leveraged the whistleblower and then claimed he didn't know who he was, then claimed he never met him, lie, he needed to be put on the stand. That makes him a fact witness. How can you have a fact witness as the prosecuting attorney? That doesn't work too well, does it? That's one thing about defending yourself. It's another about prosecuting the other person when you are a fact witness in the case. Yes, MG, that's right. They did everything they were told. The question is, and I'll put this to the chat room here in YouTube Live, who was giving the orders? Who was giving the orders? Who was telling the Democrat Party to do this? You think they actually came up with it on their own? If you just look at how smoothly this has been perpetrated, like the impeachment was authorized before the transcript, before the call was ever made, before there was ever a phone call, impeachment had already been implemented. Impeachment was implemented 2 years ago. There was no call to, in fact, Zelensky hadn't even been elected yet, and they were on the impeachment trail. That's what I'm saying. So, in this book, you do. MG says we know. So who is it? Oh, it's got to be way more powerful than the president. Way more powerful than any president of any country. I maintain that the people, the force that's giving the orders to the DNC, which is the political arm of the global syndicate, is the global syndicate itself. The global syndicate is giving orders to the Fed. The global syndicate is giving orders to all the agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations, and that's really the swamp. That's how broad this war is. That now there are factions inside all of those organizations that are loyal to America and they're loyal to the president, but they're in a minority. Slowly but surely, The president has been putting federal judges in place, and these federal judges serve for life. And now we're up to something like 190-something federal judges, which is a significant dent, a big dent. Thank goodness Barack Obama was such a sloth. He left about 140 judgeships open, and Trump jumped on it and began filling them. Of course, it went kind of slow at first because we didn't really have a majority in the Senate. I mean, we did by the R's and the D's, but we didn't because a lot of those R's were rhinos and they had to be replaced, which they were. They were replaced in 2018. So we kept the Senate, but we also got better senators in place, better senators, loyal Americans in place. And that's why we've been able to get the judges approved after 2018. So slowly but surely, the makeup of the court is changing, and this is going to be key to ushering in the 1,000 years of peace. So the global syndicate is definitely against this happening. It could be, Terry says, Hillary and Bill. It could be, these are kind of the original ones that took all the money made in Mena, Arkansas. You remember when Barry Seal was flying all the drugs and the money and the weapons and everything for Iran-Contra? The person behind that was Daddy Bush. Daddy Bush ends up winning the first term of the presidency, and then Clinton decides to run against him because he got the goods. He knew everything about Daddy Bush because he'd been running, his drug operation had been running out of his state, and he'd been siphoning money off of it. And of course, they did the infamous Manila envelope campaign, which is where they took the cash from the drugs. You couldn't really put it in the bank. There was just too damn much of it. They stuffed it into Manila envelopes, and they mailed it to the superdelegates in the Democrat Party. So they bought them. They bought the superdelegates, regardless of what happened to Bill Clinton during the election of 1992. Do you think that Ross Perot just ran out of the clear blue knowing he didn't have a chance of a snowball in hell? No. All that was billions of dollars that were shuffled around in order to split the conservative vote. Ross Perot split enough vote off of Daddy Bush that he couldn't beat Clinton. Clinton won with 43% of the vote. 43%! 57% of the country, which would be good numbers for any presidential candidate, wouldn't it? 57% of the country voted against Bill Clinton in 1992. But his opponent was two people. It was Daddy Bush and Ross Perot. And that division is what caused Bill Clinton to be president. All that was by design. All that was crafted by the global syndicate and this drug money. Well, now that drug money, that's nothing compared to the drug money they have today. The drug money they have today is way more organized than that, thanks to the likes of Jim Comey and Loretta Lynch and Eric Withholder. All of this money that was done, all this money that was made and laundered through those banks. There were no prosecutions. Nobody was even fired. Oh, they might have cut down on their bonuses a little bit when they got caught, but that was about it. All that money was used to influence this. And by the way, the handling charges on overlooking $329 billion in drug money is about 10%. Do the math. That's about $3.3 billion in dark money. Dark money. $3.3 billion is a lot of money. You can run a hell of a presidential campaign on that. You can buy some countries for that amount of money. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. The tech giants, the four tech giants, when you accumulate them, they have more money, just those four companies, more money than all but the top 7 countries in the world. Pretty crazy, huh? It's a lot of money. This is what America is up against right now. Why? Because the global syndicate is dedicated to one thing and one thing only, and that's ridding the world of America. One way or another. Climate change, vaccinations, socialism, whatever it takes. Dumbing down America, bringing in H-1Bs to replace us, shipping our manufacturing over to China. All of this was designed to cut America off and make America weak again so that the global syndicate could take them out. This is what's come out in Peter Schweizer's book, Minds on Order. It's coming in. I think it's fantastic, the work that Peter Schweizer's done. James Biden's firm received $1.5 billion in government contracts despite having no experience during the Obama administration. That's a lot of money. That's $1,500 million. How many millions of dollars do you require to retire on? One. All right. One sounds good. But what about two? Huh? Yeah, $2 million at halfway decent, let's say, 3% interest. Huh? 3%. That's about $300,000 a year. Not too bad. Not too bad. 3%, let's see, that'd be $30,000 per million. So $2 million would be $60,000 a year without touching the principal. $60,000 a year without touching the principal off $2 million bucks. It would take the edge off, right? It would take the edge off. What about 10 million? Huh? 10 million, that'd be roughly $600,000 a year. Could live with that. That'd be pretty good. $600,000 a year. That's good money. What about $100 million? What if I told you the Biden family, all 5 members of the Biden family, put over $100 million in their pocket? And what if I told you that the handling charges off the top of that dark money ended up buying not 1, but 3 multi-million-dollar mansions for the Obamas? What about Chelsea Clinton? Yeah, she just landed a $9 million board seat. What has she ever done? Never flipped a burger in her life. Started out making $600,000 a year at NBC. Why? Well, because of Hillary, because of who you are, because of the influence that you can buy with that amount of money. Frank Biden is linked to projects receiving millions in taxpayer loans from the Obama administration despite having no experience. Hunter Biden's firms scored business deals with people and entities tied to the governments of Russia, China, Kazakhstan, and those deals reportedly scored him hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, it's insane how much money. Even if you were putting it up your nose, that's still a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's well known that he had unconventional business links to Ukrainian natural gas firm Burisma, but there's more. His business partner, Devin Archer, used their involvement with the Burnham Financial Group to make foreign deals with governments and oligarchs. One of those oligarchs, his name is Nurlan Abduov, the associate of another Kazakh oligarch, Kengiz Rakishev is the son-in-law of the former vice prime minister of Kazakhstan, who was formerly the defense minister and is now the Kazakh ambassador to Russia. According to the book, an account Hunter regularly received funds from showed money arrived from a firm run by Rakishev in 2014, right in the middle of the Obama administration. There's a ton of this in here. By the way, my notes I'm going to store them on my server. And what I'm going to do when I send the newsletter out, and if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, right down here in the description of this video is going to be the link to the newsletter. It's free, don't cost nothing. You'll get access to all the notes that I use to do these broadcasts on Wednesdays and Sundays. And all I want you to do is get a hold of that. Also, the North Pole Inner Earth Expedition website is now back up and running. It was hacked early today. some crazy ambassador from the inner earth took the site over and told me to, drop it or else. And I publicly respond by saying, hey, why don't you come over and, we'll discuss it over some scotch. Brad Olson has joined the expedition. He's the Antarctic explorer. We're going to try to explore the Arctic together in the summer of 2021. If you want to be a part of it, the website is npiee.com, npiee.com. There's the link right there. And that stands for North Pole Inner Earth Expedition.com. If you go there, not only can you sign up for the newsletter for free, a special North Pole Inner Earth Expedition newsletter, but you can go to the sponsorship tab and you can find out how to join the expedition. You can watch it on Holloworth TV, or you can actually get on the ship with us and go. Everything's there. It's all planned out, and I think you should try to be part of it. We're going to take a quick break in about 30 seconds, and we'll be back after these messages from our sponsors. And then you can just hang out with us, all right? So YouTubers, just hang out. Don't go anywhere, and we'll be back right after this. Well, YouTubers are not hearing anything, but I'm sure the people at Revolution Radio are hearing the commercials and all that. I'm sure one's going to step on the other here in just a little bit, but we'll try to keep the conversation going. Don't forget, if you're a part of the YouTube chat room, which is just blazing right now, I will try to acknowledge everybody. Justin's out there. Resident 4 is out there. Oh, there's the commercial trying to step on us. It's just the way this studio works. It's all right. Just hang out with us. We'll be all right. YouTube is live, and I'll just keep trying to interact with you all. MG's got some great thoughts. And don't forget, at the very bottom, see a little square with the $sign in it? You know what that is? That's the Power Chat. That is the Power Chat. If you see that little square down here at the very bottom, if you click on that, you can make a donation to this America Free Radio studio. And I have already said at the beginning of this year, all of the donations that come into the radio program, all of them, are all going to the expedition. We intend to build the subscription base for the expedition to be able to pay for the expedition. So every little bit helps. Even if it's only $5, it all adds up. And I'm not taking any money at all. Nothing. I already earn my own money. I'm a sovereign being. I don't borrow any money from anybody. We're going to be making a dry run this June, going to Moscow, going to St. Petersburg, going to Murmansk, and we're going to try to get on the ship and film that. And you get to see all of that if you're part of Holloworth TV. If you're not part of Holloworth TV, sorry, you're not going to see it. It's exclusive only to subscribers. And you can get that by going to nippy.com right there. You see in the display. Commercials will run for about another minute and a half, and then we'll get back into the story. Nice to see you, Festus. Jackie Burns. Glad you're out there. She says, I'm hanging. That's good. Justin Holt. Nice to see you. What is that? Mr. Purple Tie? I have a purple tie. I like ties. Oh, hang on a second. Yes, don't forget to check out the Birth Trilogy. I'll put the book circulation right up here. You go to Amazon, buy any of my books, paperback or Kindle, doesn't matter. I will give you the audio version for free. So if you're not a great reader, don't worry about it. I read it for you, and the recording is very high quality. If you don't want the paperback and you don't want the Kindle version or the Nook version, you just want the audio version, you're in luck. Because if you go to my website, brooksagnew.com, I'll put the link right down here in the description on YouTube. brooksagnew.com, go to the books tab. You can buy all the audiobooks at a huge discount. By the way, just so you know, there were more than just the Biden family involved in the pachinko machine cash ATM funded by you. You funded it. You put the money up. They took it out of your paycheck. They shipped it to Ukraine. They laundered it through shell corporations and nonprofits. It came spilling out the bottom in the form of cash and went right back to several family members, not just the Bidens. Elizabeth Warren's son-in-law, with whom she is close, very close, produced a film backed by the Iranian government. Oh, yeah. That's right. Warren's the biggest liar on the circuit, no question about it. I mean, anybody that lies to Harvard that, hey, I'm a Native American, so I'm going to take that Native American slot that you have open right there, and I'm going to be your only Native American student. No, I don't really have the best grades in the world, but they're good enough. They're good enough for Native American, and if you'll let me have that Native American spot, I'll make you proud. I'll be your first Native American graduate. And I'll go on. I'm going to run for president someday. Except she's a liar. Everything she says about herself is a liar. And you saw the little setup, right? Hot mics and CNN after the debate's over. She goes up right within earshot of the microphone and says, did you just call me a liar on national television? And Bernie looks at the mic, knows that it's live. He's a seasoned politician, knows exactly what's going on. And he says, let's not talk about this right here, looking at the microphone. Liz acts like she's stupid and doesn't realize that the mic is hot. Oh, she realizes because they planned it that way. That's why she walked up to him right there at that mic and why she said it that way. Because she is a liar. Well, she has a little-known corporate and international tie. One of those connections is directly tied to her son-in-law, Sushil Tyagi, husband of her daughter, Amelia. Amelia? Kind of spelled weird. While Tyagi remains a largely mysterious figure. He is close to his mother-in-law. Warren and her husband even served as witnesses for a power of attorney corporate document he filed in India in December of 2009. However, Tyagi has been involved in a series of curious, shall we say, troubling business ventures around the world. One of those questionable ties involves his production company, Tricolor Films, which produced a film directed by Iranian filmmaker Majid Majidi, titled The Song of Sparrows. It was funded and controlled by the Islamist Iranian government. So there you have it. And Elizabeth Warren knew all about it, probably got to pre-screen it, probably was involved in some of the editing. The full credits of the film, by the way, for some reason, seem to have been scrubbed from the internet suddenly. They obtained a copy using the Wayback Machine and made a startling discovery once they looked in the credits. The movie's chief investors include none other than the Social Deputy of State Welfare Organizations, the SWO, of Iran, and there's the Iranian writing in my notes you can see, as well as the Cultural and Artistic Organization of Tehran. By the way, these two investors in the film might appear at first glance to be innocuous cultural organizations, but they are not. Both are funded and controlled by the Islamist Iranian government. The Cultural and Artistic Organization of Tehran states, and I quote, "This organization was founded in 1996 and does its activities under the supervision of a board of trustees composed of various cultural institutions such as the IRIB and Islamic Propaganda Organization," close quote. Pretty interesting, isn't it? The Cultural and Artistic Organization of Tehran's page promotes cultural events such as one for school children entitled, are you ready for this? The Seal of Hostages, attended by several top Iranian officials, according to the book. Another event is the inherently anti-Semitic Quds Day on the last day of Ramadan. The organization also arranges marches as well as organizes posters and other materials for Quds Day. Its site says this, and I quote, "A new plan for the destruction of Israel will be launched, and the Quds cultural radio station will be located at the radio station. Also, the I Love the Fight Against Israel is distributed among the people," close quote. All this from Liz Warren, Pocahontas. So what is this leading to over there, by the way, in the Middle East? What's going on? Why can't people remember Persia? Huh? Why can't people remember that a long time ago it was Persia? And then in I believe it was 1938, the Shah of Iran decided, because of his incredible affection and alignment with Adolf Hitler, decided to rename Persia. He did it on his own, didn't put a finger in the wind, take a vote or anything. He renamed Persia Iran, which is Farsi for Aryan. He was aligning the country with Nazi Germany. 1938. So I say it's time for Persia to come out, okay? 1938 to 2020, right? It's 82 years. That's long enough, don't you think? 82 years for the country of Iran to exist. I think what should happen is the women of Persia should rise up and throw off the hijab and say, we are going to be a free people and we're going to show our beautiful faces and our smile, and we will never, ever be oppressed by men ever again. The women of Persia could do it. Yes, Persian art is amazing, MG. Persian architecture is amazing. Persian ceramics and everything around the country, absolutely stunning. It blows your mind how beautiful it is. That's not Iran. That's Persia. Iran needs to disappear off the globe. Iranian opposition leaders said a couple days ago that protests against the Iranian regime are ongoing, with helpful assistance from U.S. initiatives to provide hardware and software that allows Iranians to bypass internet censorship from their repressive government. Pretty clever, huh? In other words, we're giving them routers, we're giving them special technology that allows them to not only communicate with each other, you know, texting and networking and stuff like that, but also to get their messages out to the world, which means the Iranian regime can no longer operate in the dark. They can't assassinate people, they can't round people up, they can't put women in jail for not wearing their hijab properly without being exposed to the international community. The U.S.-supported measures included providing apps, servers, and other technology to help people communicate, visit banned websites, install anti-tracking software, and navigate data shutdowns. Many Iranians rely on virtual private networks, VPNs, to mask their location and their identity. We do that here as well. There are all kinds of VPNs out there, all kinds being advertised. They run anywhere from about $80 to about $150 a year. They can be a little problematic. There are websites that will not operate if they sense that you're using a VPN. But what it basically does is, like, I'm sitting in an undisclosed location outside of or east of the Appalachian Mountains. It's very easy, one click of a button, and I can suddenly appear as though I'm sitting in Atlanta. So if you were to try to trace my location through Skype or Zoom or something like that, you could trace it to Atlanta, and then it would not be resolved. You would not be able to find me. That's what a VPN does. We work with technology companies to help free flow of information and provide circumvention tools that helped the protest. A second U.S. State Department official told the Financial Times, we are able to sponsor VPNs, and that allows Iranians to use the internet. Let's call them Persians. Persians can use the internet against Iran. The U.S. Treasury Department has issued waivers for such software and services, despite the Trump administration's imposition of stinging sanctions, when it withdrew from the 2015 International Nuclear Accord. But these sanctions are against the government, and that, yes, it is hurting the people because the government's going to keep itself alive no matter what, even if it has to starve its own people. That's fine with them. They don't care. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to back end that relief so that as the Iranian government begins to suck all the oxygen out of the community, fresh air is being pumped into main streets. Canadian circumvention software maker Siphon, which is spelled P-S-I-F-O-N, which benefits from U.S. government funding and a Treasury license, said it recorded a 25% jump in usage in January in Iran. So here we are about halfway, a little over halfway through January, and we've already seen a 25% jump in traffic, which means that the apps and the software that Siphon is putting in place is working. Monthly usage of the app, which provides a private, secure connection for Iranians to maneuver through censorship firewalls to reach servers in the West, is working. It rose to about 3 million users in the country of 80 million. Another Trump administration strategy was to pump more funding into the Internet Freedom Program, established by the Obama administration to provide better internet access to the people of repressed nations. Funding for this program was increased by 30% in 2018, and it is working. The Iranian regime is not taking its loss of control very well, however. During moments of a political crisis, they have been shooting unarmed protesters. Yeah. And it turns out that one of them shot Iranian military shot down a Ukrainian passenger jet this month. The regime has a tendency to shut down internet access entirely rather than trying to block dissidents and organizing online and getting information from the outside world. These heavy-handed tactics annoy the Persian people, and they inflict heavy costs on the economy that already teeters on the edge of collapse, thanks to mismanagement by the Iranian regime. So, what a lot of people haven't figured out about that jet is it was shot down with 2 missiles, not 1, 2. They were fired 30 seconds apart, and they were fired from a location close enough that you could visually see the jet. 8 other jets took off from the same airport without incident. They were all passenger jets. This particular jet was targeted for destruction. When it landed, the bulldozers were already moving. They bulldozed the scene, hid all the evidence, and no investigation is going to reveal anything about that. No black boxes, no bodies, no nothing. What we do know is there were a lot of Canadians who were former Iranians on that jet. There were also Ukrainians on that jet. It's too much of a coincidence. I don't have a manifest. I don't know exactly who was on there. But when you take an opportunity, you take a crisis that's happening around you, you seize the opportunity to take care of loose ends. This is the way the global syndicate works. By the way, these were Russian Tor missiles, heat-seeking missiles, not the kind of missiles that were shot at the base, blowing up some buildings. Which, by the way, the video and some of the pictures came back from where those missiles landed on the airbase. Wow, these things dug up some real estate. I'm surprised. They must have known they were coming and they got out of the way, but there is no way people could have survived. These things made some serious holes in the ground. I'm not talking about pits. I'm talking about craters. Serious, serious hardware. MG says, my voice takes me into the Wayback Machine. Brooks is due for a C2C appearance. It's true, Justin, I am, but here's why we're holding off on this. I met with George 2 Sundays ago in Boulder, and we discussed this. And, of course, Brad and I are talking. He's the Antarctic Explorer. I'm the Arctic Explorer. We're trying to team up here and put this together for the North Pole Inner Earth Expedition. Bigger staff makes for lighter work and more presence. But the issue has been me. Not me personally, but it takes a lot of resources, and I've been pouring as much money as I can afford into this to get the website up and running. Now, the website is up and running. Got hacked today. I managed to take care of that. Don't worry about that. The firewall's back up. Passwords have been changed. Everything's cool. North Pole Inner Earth Expedition website's back up and running. Everything's the way it should be. But we need to implement membership management software in that. And the management software for non-WordPress sites, because this is not a WordPress site, is expensive. So I'm laying out the cash out of my pocket to buy the software to manage the membership. Let me explain, because this isn't like an email database, okay? When you're managing membership, you're managing a subscription. So we have 3 different levels here. First, we have videos that are put in there so people can watch them. These are videos you don't find anywhere else. You're only going to find them on Hollower TV. The second thing is webinars. Once or twice a month, the staff is going to come together. on Zoom, and we're going to invite hundreds of people that are subscribers to come in and ask us questions, interactive, like, hey, what's going on? Where are you going? Are you going to go in? You know, what'd you see? And we'll get to share all kinds of files, and you'll get to speak to the staff of the expedition face to face once or twice a month until we go in 2021. This is a big thing. It's a big thing, and it's inexpensive, like $25. The next level up from that is the live stream. Now, the live stream is killer because Brad's going to go back this winter, which is their summer, to Antarctica and shoot some more, but we're going to try to live stream it. We have access to a satellite that we can stream from the ground to the satellite to you live from Antarctica. We're going to do the same thing from the Arctic. We're doing a dry run this summer. That means we're not going on the water, but we are going to Moscow, St. Petersburg, Murmansk, and try to get on the ship, and we'll film everything live, and you get to see it. You get to go with us. So, yeah, it's a 36-hour train ride from Moscow to Murmansk. It's a big deal, but it goes right through the heart of Russia. So we're going to do it live, and you'll get to see a lot of this. It'll be all 4K, and it'll be very, very cool. You get to see it. And then the next level above that, you can actually come on the ship with us. I mean, a bed, a bath, a ticket. You're on the boat. You're breaking ice with us. We go out 10 days into the Arctic Ocean. If you think you can handle it, or these are 100-foot seas, so it's not going to be very easy. It's not going to be a vacation, but it's definitely going to be an adventure because you're going to be with us, you're going to be with the scientists, and you're going to be with history. You're going to be part of the documentary. You're going to be part of the credits. Things are going to be very cool on that boat, and they're going to be very cool for years and years after that because we're going to shoot about 3,000 hours of film during that expedition. A lot of it will be streamed live for those live viewers that I was telling you about. There'll be hundreds of thousands of them, hopefully. But also, you will be part of that documentary. So as the months go on, and Nat Geo and Discovery and History and all these people and Nippon Television Network want segments of this on film, you're going to be in it. You're going to be part of it. And there are 20 seats left for that. 20. All that's on the website at npie.com. You can go there and you can sign up. And that's what's very cool about the whole thing. That has to be managed by membership software because, I mean, if we only have 10 or 12 people sign up, hey, I can handle that. But if we have 50,000 or 100,000, 150,000 people, this all has to be done in automatic, folks. And there's special software for doing that. And not everything can do it. Like Apricot, none of that software can do that. It has to be special software. It costs money. It costs money to administrate, costs money to put in place, and it costs money to manage. I am laying all that cash out of my pocket to do it. So that's what's holding us up. Because if we go on C2C, coast to coast, too soon, 20 million people listening to that program and hitting the website when we're not ready, we're going to lose all those subscriptions. So August 29th, this announcement is so new, it isn't even on the website yet. You're listening to it live. Here it is live for you right now. August 29th, we're going to have a live event. George Norrie, myself, a couple others, live in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm going to put the details on the website. I'll put the link right down here in the bottom. It'll also be linked to the North Pole Inner Earth Expedition.com. And we're going to make a global announcement on August 29, 2020 from Asheville, North Carolina, live. Now, of course, the best thing for you to do is to be there at the theater. That's the best thing. Come to the website, sign up, come to Asheville. If you're within 200 miles of here, you should come. This is going to be awesome. But you should sign up. You should be part of this history. And you can be part of it for as little as $5. We tried to make it to where anybody's budget, you can fit in this somewhere and be a part of history. You'd be a part of history. Your name is going to go down in history as being a contributor and part of this expedition. It's going to be awesome. We're leaving August 2021, but it takes a long time to put the money together to get the charter from the charter company, to get the shipping company to give us that boat for 12 days. So we can sail from Murmansk, we can go to this 10,000 square mile area and survey it. And if we don't find anything but whales and ice, it's still going to be one awesome expedition. But if we do find an opening in the crust, or if we're visited by something, a UFO, a USO, some amazing phenomenon, you get to see it because you're going to be there. And if you're watching on the live stream, what we see, you will see. We'll hold nothing back. Nothing back. And you should be a part of that. It's like Deadliest Catch off the chain. It's like better than any Everest movie ever made. It is going to be the greatest expedition of all time. Yes, that's exactly right. I'm coming from Columbia, South Carolina. Good for you. That's what we should do. So Columbia, South Carolina is about 100 miles south of here. Asheville is straight up 26. So you just come up to Columbia, hit Interstate 26 and go straight up to Asheville, and boom, you're there. I look forward to meeting all of you live there. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. All right, let's skip out of Iran, skip out of Nippy, and let's go to this story that I want to share. Where is it here? Because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has... Well, she came on the scene as an actress. She was picked out of a pool of possible candidates. She was picked because she was passionate, because she was cute, and because she had the financial backing of the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur is the guy that financed it and helped put her in place. I know you know who he is. He's a foul-mouthed. He's like the opposite of Alex Jones, except he's just as boisterous, only vulgar. Anyway, at an event commemorating Martin Luther King on Monday, Ms. Ocasio-Cortez told the audience that wealthy people sat on a couch while undocumented workers earning slave wages created all the wealth and value. As if that isn't racist enough, she went on to say this. And I think this was scripted. She didn't come up with this. This was written for her by professional script writers. And the script writers are very, very good at giving her sound bites. Because she's a millennial, you understand, the media is built on sound bites. Not these long shift for brains diatribes, but sound bites. And this is one of them. And I quote, "No one ever makes $1 billion. You take $1 million." And of course, the crowd went, "Wow!" Wow! Big claps and everything, because they're soundbite driven. They just are, and they like her, red lipstick in her hair and everything. They like that, so they cheered because they went, "Wow, that's surprisingly intelligent." But she went on, chuckling that there's a case that billionaires are inherently morally corrupt, and that if Jeff Bezos wants to be a good person, he'd run Amazon into a worker cooperative. He'd turn it into a worker cooperative, which is basically communism. And this is the solution that AOC is proposing. She wants to completely upend the system and turn the country into a Marxist collective. In other words, Bezos would no longer be a billionaire. He would take all the billions that he's accumulated, what is it, 40, 80, $100 billion, whatever it is, and you take all the employees that work for Amazon. I don't know how many there are. There might be 500,000 employees in Amazon. I'm not really sure. And you divide the 500,000 into the 40 billion, and that's the check that you write each individual person. So Bezos would go away. He would just be a figurehead, and all the people would then be equally sharing in the wealth of the company. Of course, that means the company is broke now because they don't have any capital to build new buildings or to weather financial ups or downs or be able to support the cash flow. All that goes away. The individuals, they probably made enough money to buy a car, maybe put a down payment on a house, but then that's it. That's all the money, because they got to go someplace else. Now the company has to be subsidized by something because it's not gonna make money now. It's worth noting that AOC is not stupid. I didn't say she was stupid. I said she's ignorant. Conservative media likes to beat up on her and make her out to be an idiot, but actually she's not. She's a talented actress, and she's getting better every day. She's able to memorize lines from script to script, and now she can almost, I say almost, I use that very loosely, almost string lines together from various scripts to sound like, sentences and stuff, like a coherent thought. Of course, those of us that know, where the lines come from, it's a little bit like, quoting lines out of Princess Bride, and then stitching them into Starsky and Hutch, and then taking those lines and stitching them into Fresh Prince, and sounding intelligent. There was a movie like this. What was it? Oh, it was Rocket Man, and there was a German spy, and there was, of course, the heroine. She was beautiful. I never saw her in another movie after that, but she was beautiful. And the German spy was laying these very romantic, lovely lines on her. Trouble is that she was a budding actress, and she knew the lines and what movie it came from that he had shot. So he was just recalling lines out of movies, trying to sound debonair and intelligent and so well-spoken and romantic, and she could see right through it because she knew it was just a script. So one of her central themes is that a lot of people are getting screwed by the system. And you know what? That is an easy position for people to associate with. I mean, even me, I manifest a lot, and I do things most people don't do and get through where most people don't. But there are certain things I can't do. Certain things I've not been able to accomplish. I haven't been able to accomplish putting in my electric trucks into production. Why? Because it takes $50 million. $50 million is hard to come by in the United States of America. It's hard to come by anywhere, honestly. Honestly, it is. Now, you might say, oh, 50 million, that's nothing. Listen, if you say that around me, people that know me will tell you this. If you say $50 million, not that much money, I am going to usher you to the front door, and you're not welcome back. Because you need to understand, $50 million is one hell of a lot of money. It's very, very hard to find anywhere. And no, you can't start a company on debt. Why do you think the United States of America is at the lowest point of business startups in its history? Oh, yeah, unemployment's low. It is. Why? Because big corporations are hiring like mad. Why? Because they're the only businesses in town. They're the only ones that have the capital to go anywhere. Startups, not there. Why? Because there are no investors. The investors didn't show up. Investors are buying software. They're buying apps. They're buying medical devices. They're investing in the stock market. I mean, who could go wrong? We are competing against all that. Small business is competing against all that. If you don't believe me, go anywhere you want. I don't care which state it is. Some state this next weekend is going to have a convention where small business can go in and learn how to access, let's say, doing business with the federal government, or access, make a pitch to investors. Look it up. Look it up. There's one in every single state. And every single event is sold out within hours of when it's announced. Hours. It's sold out. And nobody gets funded. I mean, if you're looking for $25,000 to start a little shop, maybe. You're looking for $100,000 and you already have $500,000 in sales, maybe. But if you're pre-revenue, you have a patent and a prototype and an idea and you need 30, 40, 50, $100 million to start up, forget about it. That's why we're the lowest level of business startups since the year 1675. That's a long time. So when she says that there's a lot of people getting screwed by the system, I know what she's talking about. I've been to Washington a bunch of times. I've sat down in the Pentagon several times and made my pitch for my truck. It makes sense. It's a wonderful truck. They love it. They put in pre-orders for it. But that doesn't mean the money comes. That doesn't mean somebody steps forward and says, okay, here's $50 million. Go build your plant, put the tools in place, and let's start production and let's build some trucks. Sorry, that's not out there. That is not out there. No, don't use the word Rivian to me. Rivian's not a startup. Rivian is a marketing idea of Ford. Ford and Amazon and a couple other accounting firm and a couple other places have come together in a joint venture worth about $1.5 billion. But it isn't all equity. A lot of it is debt. A lot of it is leveraged by the companies that are already existing, huge corporations. The Rivian is not a practical truck. 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds? Who needs that? Who needs a truck that can carry a cooler of beer? Nobody. People need a truck that can carry plywood. People need a truck that can tow a cement mixer or that you could put plumbing pipe on or stack 2x4s in. That's what people need a truck for. That's what our truck does. Our truck carries 1,000 pounds, 150 miles for about $1.50. Very practical. Safest cab in its field. Largest cab in its field. Heaviest payload in its class. No, it doesn't have a 24-inch plasma screen in it. No, it doesn't have all the creature comforts and dazzles and lights and shaved door handles. And no, it doesn't have any of that. Because our market doesn't care about that. Our market wants a truck that works. They want a truck they can afford. They want a truck between $40,000 and $50,000 without rebates, because these are all municipalities. They're going to lease it. They don't get any tax rebates. They don't get any tax refunds. They don't pay any tax. They want something they can afford and something that works, not something that looks good. I mean, our truck looks good. I'm just saying it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It has the meat and potatoes. And by the way, I'm the owner of the patent. Yeah, I'm the owner of the patent. So if you want to build an electric truck, you got to come see me eventually. You might as well come see me now while it's affordable. All right. So I get a little miffed, at the system because it is rigged kind of against us. It's rigged for the big boys and it's rigged against small business coming and competing in their sandbox. But the primary danger, as is the case with most politicians, is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she doesn't really have a grasp of the problem because she doesn't care about the problem. The only thing she cares about is getting the lines right and looking good while she's doing it. That's all she cares about. So why are people getting screwed in the system? Why is health care so expensive? Why is education so expensive? She doesn't know. I could tell her. I have a grasp of all that. But she doesn't know because she doesn't care to know. That's not part of the plan. That's not part of the plan. By the way, health care is not that expensive. If you need health care, I can get health care a mile away, right down here at the Doc in a Box. Is it affordable? Well, yeah. I get an $85 visit, whatever the drugs cost, and I'm done. I'm treated. In a few days, I'm well again, and I have no payments. So what am I out? I'm out maybe $185, $200, and that's it. You're talking about health insurance. Health insurance is not affordable. Health insurance is not health care. Health insurance is a monthly payment, $500, $600, $1,000 a month. So let's just say it's $500, $6,000 a year. You know what? That's not cheap. It's not cheap if you're healthy. If you're healthy, and can you justify more than you would spend for a car payment for something that you're not even going to use unless you feel bad? No, you're not. You're going to do without it because it's too expensive. And when more people do without it, it gets more expensive for everybody because you don't have enough healthy people paying into the system to take care of the sick people. So let's just talk about the sick people just for a minute. What do we got? What is it? 6.5 million people that can't afford to pay their medical bills. You know, that's pretty reasonable. I don't mean not being able to pay your bills. I mean 6.5 million people. We could come up with a healthcare system that could take care of those 6.5 million people. All those pre-existing conditions, diabetes, osteoporosis, blah, blah, blah. All those people that can't pay. 6.5 million people. We just pick up the bill. Yeah. Let's just say that it is $1 million a piece. $1 million a piece. Okay, yeah. 6.5 million people times $1 million a piece. Right. It's doable. That is doable. But I doubt the bills are $1 million a piece. It's probably way less than that. I'd say it's more in the range of $100,000 a piece, but that's not insurance. Those people with those conditions, that's not insurance. Insurance is a risk venture. Insurance is, you're healthy today, but something might happen tomorrow. And so what you do is you pay into this for years on the risk that something might happen. But with these 6.5 million people, it already happened. They already sick. There's no gamble. There's no risk. That's not insurance. That's a subsidy. So we could take care of that. 6.5 million people, we take care of that. The rest of the people need to be able to compete state by state or state over state. In other words, I'm in North Carolina somewhere, and I buy insurance from a company in Indiana. Why? Because the company in Indiana has a portfolio, and what they want to do is add more people than are just in the state of Indiana. They want to add people that are in, say, 6 states or 8 states. So they're talking about 50, 60 million people on their insurance plan. Well, you start spreading the risk out, you start spreading the payment base out, and now you can do stuff. And there are other plans. There's MetaShare. There's sharing costs inside companies. Did you know that? Did you know there are companies that you can pay into a medical savings account as a group, say of 80 people or 100 people paying into a group? And they have enough insurance to cover 5 or 6 people, which is about the national average. 5 or 6% of the people have some catastrophic illness. 5 or 6% of the people for a catastrophic illness, like a heart attack, a liver failure, cancer, something like that. But everyone else, they just need simple stuff like strep throat or a knee replacement or, stuff like that over their lifetime. You pay into that account. It goes into the group account. And then that group's medical bills are shared out of that account. Once you pay up your account, if you don't use any, you stop paying. Once you hit $6,000 or $7,000, whatever it is, that's the base. You don't get sick. That money's yours. You do get sick, you draw on it. You just take out your card, swipe it, it comes out of that account, and they start drawing money out of your paycheck again until it's replenished. That's the way it works. It's like a MetaShare inside a company. Way cheaper, like a 20th the cost of national health insurance. And it works better because you get to keep your local physician. And your local physician likes it because guess how long he has to wait to get paid? Like 10 minutes, and he's paid. He cuts out all that administration that goes with the insurance. It cuts out all the people that are sitting there with their hands out saying, oh, nope, you can't charge for that cotton swab. You can't charge for that x-ray. You can't charge for that medical test. Nope, he gets paid for all that right out of the account, just like that. And that MRI that cost you $2,500, yeah, it's now $250. You know why? Because it gets paid today. It's a big, big difference. Health care is affordable. Health insurance is a freaking racket. So these are things that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez does not understand. Why is education so expensive? Because the federal government inflated it. They inflated it. They kept pumping money into the educational systems for degrees that nobody can use and nobody wants. And the universities charged it because they could. There's no competition. But there is. There is. All it would take is a little bit of federal regulation or deregulation, and smart people could actually self-educate off the internet. There are all kinds of online colleges that teach the same, in fact, more leading-edge courses than what you get in a university. I'm saying that the university's stranglehold on education, on higher education, is over. The things that are taught in the university are obsolete. Why would you want an education from an obsolete source? Get the leading edge. Get the best stuff. Come out with the best degree. You're studying from the same textbook. You're taking the same exact test, only you're doing it at your pace. And you can come out, if you're a self-starter and self-educating kind of person. If not, you can get with groups or a proctor. And you can get the same education as the person sitting in the class and getting drunk every Friday at the university. Except instead of spending $30,000 a year, you spend $3,000 a year. It's a big difference. Secondary education, the big institutions have lost their franchise on higher education. All it's going to take is a little bit of regulation or deregulation to make that happen. The other thing that costs a lot of money, which Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez didn't enlighten us on, are elections. It costs a lot of money. I mean, billions of dollars. How would you like to get the money out of campaigning, out of elections? Of course I've thought of it. Of course I have a system for doing it. Absolutely. If you read the book Alienated Nation, which was my first #1 bestseller, by the way, one of the amendments that I have in there is to repeal the amendment that allowed senators to run for election. Yes, senators, excuse me. Senators would go back to being appointed by state legislatures. No more elections. No more nationalized elections. No more national presence. We would also put term limits on them. They could serve no more than 12 years. And that's it. That's it. That's all you serve. So now they're not campaigning and they're not serving more than 12 years. That takes all the money out of the senatorial races altogether. With congressional races, it's very simple. You leave it at 2 terms, but you limit them to 12 years. 6 terms and you're out. No more Maxine Waters there for 2.5 decades. No more Pelosi's, no more Schumer's, no more people living a lifetime as a politician. And what happens is that the empires begin to come apart. And all the money, the Joe Biden School of Self-Enrichment, it all goes away because you don't have these 3-decade-long politicians that are able to set up these money machines. All that goes away. See there? 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I took all the money out of elections, all of the corruption out of the election system. That's why you listen to this program. And what you could do to make yourself even smarter and get a jump start on 2020, because these are the roaring 20s, all you would really have to do, oh, by the way, just let me make this one quick announcement, because coming up in April 2nd through the 5th, in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, is a Human Origins Conference. This is big. This is epic big. Okay, 30 hours of lectures. It's set up well. It's run by Richard and Linda. It is really, really the place to be. If you're anywhere close to New Mexico, April 2 through 5, please meet Brad Olson, myself, Laura Eisenhower, others there. It is going to be fantastic. I promise you're going to have your mind thoroughly blown. And let's see, one other thing, if I can find it here. There it is. I want to make sure that you get to my website, brooksagnew.com, brooksagnew.com. Click on the webinars link on the left-hand side. Coming up February 8th. February 8th is the second class, the second round of classes that begins on Second Chance Success Mentoring. I can just tell you, it's the best $47 you're going to spend on yourself. Okay, you get the 90-minute lecture, which is very, very good. And then we do a journaling class where you learn how to set up and keep a journal. And then in 2 weeks, we meet again, same $47. You don't have to pay again. 2 weeks, we meet again. We do a checkup on your journaling, and we set up some face-to-face on Zoom so that we can go over your individual business plans. Okay, we can help you write a business plan. We can help you put a pro forma together. We can point you in the right direction for financing, for business management, for marketing. I'm not an expert at marketing on Facebook. Trust me, I don't think there is anybody at this level that does it. But we can tell you which way to go and what pitfalls to avoid. And we can help you set up your dream for 2020. This is a great, great success course. You're not going to find a better price, $47. Listen. This is what I do every day as my job for the Fortune 500. They hire me, big companies. I'm talking companies with thousands and thousands of employees. Even they don't know how to do it right. They make all kinds of mistakes. They call me in to plug the money leaks, to find out how to make things efficient, and to qualify all their suppliers so they don't get any scrap parts or non-conforming parts while they're launching their projects. I'm a professional launch engineer. I've been doing it for over 20 years. I'm one of the most accomplished Six Sigma masters in the country. I'm skilled at value stream mapping, at Six Sigma, and I'm also skilled at the lean manufacturing techniques. I can do it for the factories, I can do it for a small business, and I can do it for you. I can just tell you the present is much more easily negotiated when viewed from the future. This is what I can bring to you. Let me be your mentor. Just sign up for the course. It's February 8th. I promise you will not want your money back. I'm not the kind of person that's just going to charge you a condo payment. There are people out there that do that. I don't feel good about it. I'm going to charge you the price of a date at the movies, and we're going to change your life. So come on, February 8th. If you want to find out about it, go to brooksagnew.com, click on the webinars link. The dates are there. There's one in February, and there's one in March. You can sign up for those. It's a 2-section class, one Saturday at noon. 2 weeks later, we do another Saturday at noon, and you're done. Unless you want to go further. You want to go further and get more details, I can set you up. No problem. Let's make sure that we take on 2020 with everything we have. These are the roaring 20s. Don't let it slip by. It's going to be the 2030s before you know it. And there's tons and tons of opportunity. One of the ways we're not going to let this opportunity slip by is we're going to protect our system of voting. We do know that non-U.S. citizens were registered to vote in 2018 election. They did vote illegally in Illinois, in Massachusetts, in California. We know that they voted. We found out that they voted. We're in the process of trying to purge those rolls. It's not easy because the Democrats want to keep it. Secretary of State Jesse White's office blamed the registration of hundreds of non-U.S. citizens on a programming error, but I can tell you right now that it is systemic. When these people sign up for their driver's license, they're automatically registered to vote. If they're not citizens, it's their responsibility to get back hold of the state and say, hey, I'm not a citizen. Please don't register me to vote. How do we know this? We know that this is happening because hundreds of thousands of times a year, these non-citizens, they're citizens of a foreign country that have been issued a driver's license by these states. There are 9 of them. They are called for jury duty. You don't get called for jury duty because you have a driver's license. You get called for jury duty because you're registered to vote. And those people have to tell the court, I can't come to jury duty because I'm not a citizen. That happens hundreds of thousands of times a year. You know what happens if they don't get called for jury duty? They vote. And that needs to end. If you're aware of it, turn it in, because there's a huge effort to get this to stop. I'm Brooks Agnew. This is America Free Radio, coming to you from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. And I want to tell you to go out and look for the good in people every single day and help it to grow. And if you do that, before long, you will have saved the country. Let's make it happen. Don't forget to get a hold of me. Go to brooksagnew.com, brooksagnew.com, and you can reach out to me and get it. We're signing off for this week. We will see you Sunday at 8 p.m. right here on YouTube Live and Truth Frequency Radio Network. Peace, Earth Explorers.